Hi, ladies and gentlemen. I hope everyone is doing well today. So today we are taking a look at questions 15 and 16 from the Lewis Structures Chemquest. So this is the Chemquest, and the questions can be found right here, 15 and 16, on the last page. So remember, there are a bunch of steps you have to follow. These problems will just show me going through the steps for the last two Lewis structures. So the first case, NO3 with a -1 charge, is question 15. So step 1 is to figure out the valence electrons. We figure out the valence electrons by using the columns on the periodic table. So nitrogen has 5 valence electrons, and we multiply by 1 because its subscript is 1. Next, we do the same thing for oxygen. Oxygen has 6 valence electrons. We multiply by 3 because the subscript is 3, and then we add 1. So remember, this guy, this NO3 is negative, has a -1 charge because we added an electron. So when we figure out our valence electrons, we need to make sure to do the same thing. We need to make sure to add our electrons. So then we have a total of 24. Step 2 is to create our skeleton. So we can do the same thing, NO3. So then you have N with 3 oxygens around it. So then the next step, step 3, is to add our dots to the outside. I kind of like do step 2 and 3 at the same time. That way I don't have to redraw the structure. So then put our dots around. And it is not focusing. Cool. So now we have our dots around our structure. So step 4 is to figure out the leftover electrons. So step 4 can be done right here. We know we started with 24. So that's what we start with. And we have to subtract by how many you see here. When you add up the dots, remember they're 1. When you count up the lines, remember they're 2. You'll see that there are 24 total. So that means we have 0 left over. So when we move on to step 5 is double checking and making sure the central atom has 8 electrons around it. If we look right here at nitrogen, nitrogen only has 2, 4, 6. So what you have to do is you have to create a multiple bond. Remember, the lines, the bonds are 2 electrons. So you can remove any 2 electrons to create a bond. So all you have to do is pick any old oxygen. This will focus in a second, I think. Maybe not. So all you have to do is pick any oxygen. So I'll pick this one. And then I cross off 2 lines, sorry, 2 electrons, 2 dots, and I make another line. So now in step 5, all I have to do is redraw this without the squiggle. Do not give me answers with the squiggles. I will take points off. So let me just redraw it. So then we would redraw it, and that would be our answer with the 2 electrons removed there. So then that is the Lewis structure for NO3. So then next, we can do the same thing for question 16. Question 16 has us take a look at SO2. So we do the same thing. We calculate the valence electrons based on their place in the periodic table. They're both in column 16, so they have 6 valence electrons. So we do 6 times 1, because sulfur has 1, there's 1 sulfur, the subscript's 1. Same thing for oxygen, 6 times 2, we multiply by 2, because you have 2 oxygens, so it's a total of 18 electrons. So now step 2 is to draw our skeleton. So we draw our skeleton and we put 2 oxygens around it. Remember, I do step 2 and 3 at the same time just to save a little time, writing. So then now we just add our dots to the outer atoms. We add 6 because they're not hydrogens. So now step 4 is to see how many we have left over. So we started with a total of 18. Now we have to subtract, see how many we have here. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13, 14, 15, 16. So you do 18 minus 16, which would give us a 2. So remember, when we have leftover electrons, they get put on the central atom like this. So we put 2 electrons there. So now we are ready to go on to step 5. Step 5 is making sure that the central atom has 8 electrons around it. So you would just add it up. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. We only have 6, it's not enough. So remember, when we don't have enough, we create a multiple bond or a double bond. So remember, you can pick any 2 electrons on any of the atoms as long as they are the same. So this first case, we take our oxygen, I'll just remove those 2, and then add a line. So next we just have to redraw it. Remember, you have to redraw it. If you give me the squiggles, I will have to take points off. So then once we redraw it, this is our structure right here. So this is how we draw Lewis structures. Remember, these are the 3 steps. If you get stuck on a specific step, please tell me which step and write down your question. That way you don't have to remember it. And yeah, we'll take it from there. Hope everyone has a great day.